This is episode 307 of the Seahawkers podcast. I'm Brandon Schultz of the Military Seahawkers, and joining me out in the lovely woods by his cabin, just in the mountains, my good buddy and Montana Seahawker, Adam Emmert.
Nature Pod.
Nature Pod.
Yeah, we're out here in the woods, and so bear with any squawking from annoying birds or me, and or maybe a little bit of wind. But you know one thing that's not annoying, Brandon?
Winning.
That. And the DCH. The DCH is in the house.
He is.
Thank you. Thank you for bringing me out into the woods, first of all, because I needed to be out in nature. But most importantly, thanks for having me on the podcast. I really appreciate the time.
With you being in town, and we had to make this happen. And we're all, for the people wondering, much like on the broadcast, that when you're watching football, they have people spaced out nicely. It's the same thing out here. We're outdoors enjoying the sunshine, spaced out appropriately, and we're talking Seahawks football. I don't see how this could get much better.
No, you don't want to socially distance from Seahawks football. That's for certain. That's for certain. You got to be up close and intimate as possible. I'm a little close to Adam for comfort right now, but I'll take it.
I mean, we're all a little close to Adam for comfort.
Whatever, dude. You like it. You know it. Hey, no, we are definitely the champions of social distancing out here. There's no doubt about it. But one thing that the Seahawks did this weekend is they put some distance between them and the Dolphins late in the fourth quarter, wrapped it up, got us another win, scoring 30 yet again. It was something to watch.
4 straight games for the Seahawks with 30 or more points, 142 points, which matches the last time they had 4 straight games with 30 or more points. Do you remember what season that was?
2003.
2015. Russell has done this before.
Oh, that's true. That was that stretch where they went to Canada and played the Bills.
No, that was 2012.
Where they scored like 40 or more.
That was, they had 3 games of 40 or more back in 2012. They had the 58-point game against Arizona, then the 50-point game against the Bills, and then the 42-point win over the Niners back in 2012 when they went on that stretch.
Right.
And yeah, that was, over a 4-game stretch. I think they scored 173. But one of those games was not, that didn't even go into this 30-point stretch because the 2 games on either side of that was a 20-point game. But in 2015, when they went on that crazy run where Doug Baldwin was linked up with Russ down the stretch of that 2015 season, that's where they scored. That was the last time they scored 30 or more, 39 against the Steelers, 38 against the Vikings, 35 against the Ravens, and 30 against the Browns. So this has been one of the most prolific. The interesting thing I was hearing earlier today while listening, the Packers have been on a 4-game run to start the season where they scored 30 or more.
Mm-hmm.
This was the only time, though, Aaron Rodgers has scored 30 or more in 4 straight games in his career. Russ has done it twice now.
That's actually a little bit surprising.
Isn't that surprising?
But the lore of Aaron Rodgers is obviously something that the media likes to revel in and maybe doesn't give Russell quite as much credit as they do Aaron. And I guess that's fine. But Russ has decided that enough of that nonsense. He's taking the attention of the national media. They can't ignore him. He's on an absolute tear. It's pretty awesome to watch.
There were some people that were a little bit down at one point in this game, though, because third quarter, after the Seahawks, they drive down the field, they give up an interception in the end zone. The Dolphins able to come back. They get a couple field goals. They make it close. It's 17-15 at one point in this game, and I think it made some Seahawks fans a little bit nervous.
How tight was your pucker factor there, Doug?
I'm still trying to loosen up. So, look, I think a lot of listeners probably know I was in the car for this whole game, and I got to see actually one very short sequence. It was the end of the first half, that drive, which I'm sure we'll end up discussing. But I will have to tell you, this was probably the most enjoyable week of Seahawks football I've had all year. Maybe game 1. But this was amazing because I had no clue anything was happening until, and I'll tell you, there was one moment I knew something bad was going on, and maybe it's about where you're talking about here, Brandon. But I happened to glance down at my phone, and I saw a text message or an alert from you saying, "I think DCH is in the car right now."
Yes,
and my immediate thought was, "Oh my God, something bad's happening! I've got to get back on. It
was after the Dolphins pulled within the 2 points.
Okay.
And people were wondering because in our Discord group on game day, DCH, we can always count on him to bring the reverse jinx when things are getting close, because he'll come in and say, "Oh, the Seahawks are doomed."
Yeah.
But you were with us in spirit, though, because after that, 2 straight touchdown passes, the Seahawks get up 31-15, and the Dolphins score a touchdown in garbage time in the last 4 minutes to bring it close. They do have an attempt at an onside kick. The Seahawks get the ball this time and able to run out the clock. The nice thing for me in this game was that we got to see Chris Carson at the end of the game plowing ahead. And yes, a little bit of controversy at the end because the TV cameras showed about 2 micrometers of space in between the nose of the football and the first down marker. But camera angles can be deceiving. The officials right on top of it. They give the first down to the Seahawks. Chris Carson able just to weave through traffic and pick up that first down on third down. And maybe they go for it anyway on 4th and short. Who knows? We'll never have to know.
I tell you what, though, that the most impressive thing coming out of the game is how great Carson actually looked. After having come in and been up in the mountains, I was able to actually watch a little bit of the game on Rewind, and I was so impressed to see Carson run the way he did. He had that one hurdle over a defender on the sidelines there in the second half of the game I got to catch. He does not look like he's going to get slowed down by that dirty play from last week. It looks like he is going to carry us the rest of the year. I'm excited to see what happens now.
That was the biggest takeaway for me in this game, coming into it with the expectation that after last week and what we saw, expecting him to be out multiple weeks after the Tristan Hill leg twist, and then to hear throughout the week, well, he could come back, and then getting the list of inactives and seeing Carlos Hyde on that list of inactives, but not Chris Carson, and going, oh, well, maybe he'll get in and he'll get a couple carries. And he looked like regular Chris Carson in this game.
Oh, he absolutely did. And you saw a stretch there when the Seahawks got up late where Shoddy decided, okay, you know what? We are going to run that 4-minute offense, and we are going to run the snot out of the ball here for a minute. And they were actually fairly effective at it. Carson ripped off a couple big ones. So it is nice to see his return to the field after that dirty play and to be in tip-top shape. You did see that Russ was once again on the top of his game, but, I mean, geez, Brandon, only 2 touchdowns?
Only 2 touchdowns.
What is wrong here?
There were some comments about him, again, being a little bit off in the 86-degree heat and 90% humidity down in Florida. And, yeah, okay, he probably could have had, he could have had 4 touchdowns easily in this game because there was a throw to Greg Olsen where he gets smushed near the goal line. I think that was where they were offsetting penalties, though.
That's right.
But he had
the throw to DK late, your favorite play of the game,
yes,
where he doesn't quite get in.
Where he doesn't quite get in. I want to talk about DK. That's the other one where he could have had another touchdown pass. And then right before the interception where he was throwing to DK in the end zone, where Howard came over the top of DK, that could have been a potential touchdown. But just a play or two earlier was where he hit Freddie Swain. And Swain did a great job to go up and get the ball and came down just with one of his feet out of bounds. And otherwise, he nearly gets the toe tap there. And that could have been a touchdown. So it was nice to me, though, that Chris Carson, for whatever he had to do to get back into this game, that he got some touchdowns, too.
Oh, absolutely. It's always good to see Chris out there doing his thing. But the one thing that did annoy me a great deal in this game is that they left a lot of points on the field. That 4th down where they went for it down in the red zone.
4th and 3.
Yeah, that actually put a blemish on their red zone percentage, which is kind of a bummer.
The first time they didn't score a touchdown inside the red zone. And it got me thinking that maybe that's why they went for it in that situation.
It probably. I mean, at that point, you have to have a lot of confidence.
Yeah, we're 100%. Right? Why not go for it?
Right. So they went for it there, but they left points on the field there. And then the pick by Howard, which it was a great play by Howard.
Yeah.
I mean, it really was.
DK, though, after in the press conference, he was really hard on himself about that, saying that he lost track of the defender, and so he shouldn't have gone to the ground to allow him to come over the top like that.
That's an interesting take. I mean, I bet since he was the guy that was doing it, he probably know the best. But,
I didn't have any blame for him.
Not really. That didn't seem to be on anybody, really. Just more of a great play by the defender. But as good as the Seahawks have been in the red zone, the defense actually showed up yet again and held the Dolphins to five straight field goals.
5 straight field goals. That was really the difference in this game, because at that moment when they made the stop against the Dolphins late in the game and they decide inside the red zone to kick a field goal to make it 17-15, that was the moment where I said, okay, the Seahawks are going to win this game, because if the Dolphins aren't going to play aggressive enough in that moment to try and go ahead, then they have this in the bag.
Yeah, I'm a total check. The other thing that I take away defensively from this game, and I don't know if this is good or bad, is that KJ Wright really showed up really well. Why can't he do it every week right now? I get it. Like I just get so frustrated by watching him, because I love him so much, as many of us do. He's all over the field. He's clearly making plays, and some plays he's not making, but he's there to make them.
3 drops.
3 drops, right?
And some of them were tough catches, but yeah,
sure.
You would hope that he'd come down with at least one.
You got to come away with one. You got to come away with one. And then there are other games where it just feels like he disappears, right? Was it last week even? We're talking about how old is he going to get, and what are we going to have to look forward to or not look forward to from him? So that was an interesting takeaway from the defense that I had yesterday, is KJ's up and down, and I don't know how much we're going to be able to really, count on him from week to week going forward. There was a couple of interesting misses I saw from Cody Barton. Mm-hmm. There's a couple of just a little bit of a suspect play going on in our linebacking crew, which made me feel a little icky, to be honest.
I wanted to see more Shaquille Griffin out there, and he was out there late after the team was already up by 2 scores. But to me, he just has so much more athleticism and looks like he just plays with a different level of intensity that I see out of Barton.
Yeah, and I don't know if I missed this, so correct me if I missed it, but did Alton Robinson play yesterday?
He did play.
Come on, right?
Yeah, I think he was maybe in there for a couple dozen snaps, but not a lot. The one guy, I think DeMontre Moore got more snaps than Alton Robinson, and I don't see why that should happen either.
I don't either. And here's something that's been bothering me this year, and I've been talking to Adam about this a little bit too, but we seem to be one of the most exciting things I remember. You brought up earlier the 2012 season. That was one of my in the modern era now for the Seahawks. That was one of my first games to go to, actually. Strangely enough, the Minnesota game that year, I went to see the Seahawks. No, sorry, it was the Seahawks and what is now the Washington football team. But that, the beginning of that Pete Carroll era was so much about compete, and the best player is going to get on the field. I mean, that's why we've got a Russell Wilson. That's why we have the guys that just made up our core. And I don't know what's happening. Maybe I'm not seeing it. Maybe I'm reading it wrong. But how much did we hear about Alton Robinson in the offseason? Yeah. How much did we hear about Shaquille Griffin in the offseason? How much did we hear that these guys were tearing things up? And then all of a sudden, Shaquille gets, didn't go to the practice squad. We don't even know where Alton Robinson is week to week. And then we put him in last week and they're tearing us up. They're tearing the field up. These guys want to get in there. They want to play. They want to compete. They want to do what I thought the philosophy of this team was, and then they get pulled off the field again.
Yeah, it seems that it's only because of injuries that some of these guys are getting to play, and in some cases, it's a really good situation because Ryan Neal was back on the field in this game, and we saw a big hit on him on the running back on a throw to the outside, and we saw him get his second interception in as many games.
Kind of an offset eye with Cox in the backfield. Fitzpatrick going to throw. Ball is hit. Justy throw tipped up in the air. It's intercepted by Neal. He makes the interception near the 40-yard line after the ball was tipped in the air. His second interception in as many weeks.
Got to see Mayoa come in from the backside, give a little pressure to Ryan Fitzpatrick. I think he even laid a hand on his throwing arm as he was just getting rid of that ball. And about 4 plays in, and Fitzpatrick throws his first pick of the game, and it's to Ryan Neal, who had the game-sealing interception against the Cowboys, essentially.
It's interesting to hear you sound so surprised about future Hall of Famer Ryan Neal. As being the captain and chair of the Ryan Neal fan club, I'm just glad that you guys were here to catch up. Ryan Neal's been an amazing player since I noticed him 10 minutes ago. And it is actually fun to watch him get out there and take his opportunity. I'm kind of thinking, holy cow, Trey Flowers better watch out, because if Dunbar ever does get healthy, Flowers may never see the field again if, like Doug was kind of getting at, Pete Carroll really does kind of trust those young guys that maybe don't have the track record but are really producing on the field. I did want to touch on your guys' comments about Keem. Maybe they view Shaquille more as like the pass rushing closer. Maybe he's the Mariano Rivera of the pass rush, and they only want to bring him in late. I mean, that'd be about the only explanation I could give for why they're so hesitant to play him early and often, because like you said, Brandon, his athleticism does jump off the page. He's out there, he's making plays, he's causing havoc. I don't get it.
Yeah, and Cody Barton, even having two hands, can't seem to bring down a guy over the middle, just loops him around in a circle and then lets go.
I hope to God on, what is it, Tell the Truth Tuesday?
Yeah.
Is that what it is? Yeah, I hope the whole team gives him the biggest rash of
Catfish
that could possibly give in a linebacker. That was pathetic.
It was pretty bad.
Yeah.
But on the defense, definitely Mayo was one of the standouts. KJ Wright, we mentioned him. The other guy who had a standout day was Shaquille Griffin. And after all the flack that he's taken probably through these first three games, not only does he have a pass defense against Mike Gesicki just down the middle of the field, reaching up and just pushing it out of reach from Gesicki, essentially giving up 0 catches on the day. Maybe had one. I think maybe he gave up 1 catch on the day. Just incredible play from him. And he got the second interception of the day from Ryan Fitzpatrick.
1st and 10. Fitzpatrick is going to throw inside. Both picked off. It's Shaq Griffin. Here he comes. Back to the right side, across the 40, down to the 35. Knocked out of bounds by the Seahawks bench. Inside the 35-yard line, Shaq Griffin comes up with his second interception in as many weeks. Fitzpatrick throws his second pick of the day, and the Seahawks are back in business to really salt this away with 4:16 left to play.
No, what does that make? 6 picks on the year total for the Seahawks? Like, that's it's a step up from last year. But still, I think we have concerns about the secondary, even though they did kind of make Fitzpatrick not look like a world beater. But he's also Ryan Fitzpatrick. I don't know, Doug, you talked a little about some concerns you have for the secondary.
Yeah, I think so. Going into the season, it seemed like, and all the talk around was, we're going to have a top 5 secondary, right? You've got an all-pro back there now in Adams. You've got Keel, which is going to tear up the league again, and then you bring in Dunbar, who, although maybe he was a little bit of an unknown coming into us, there was a lot of expectation behind that, right? And then, of course, I mean, that's just the top 3. Let's get into the rest. But I don't know what's going on back there, guys. But to have those 3 spearheading what should be a top 5 secondary and allowing people to get over the top like they do, I'm seeing them come up to the line and play great when they come up. And we're using Adams in the pressure game, and so we're getting some pressure from him. Those plays are doing really well, but I am not seeing us slow anybody down in the passing game, and especially concerning is over the top. We're allowing too much over the top, and if we're not going to get speed from and great tackling consistently from our inside linebackers, it's just concerning, guys. I don't even know what we're going to do in terms of shoring that up, because I don't think it's just about more practice. What's it about? I don't know.
It is going to be, I think, a big concern going forward. I feel like they solved it in this game because everything, even though Parker had a big day with over 100 yards receiving, he did it on 11 catches. So a lot of that short stuff for Parker. But I think there's probably going to be a concern coming up with some of these matchups up ahead. Able to solve it. Definitely something to watch, though, going forward of if they're going to be able to keep that up.
So they've had exactly one game, this last game, that they haven't given up a completion of 25 yards or more. Not sure that's solved.
No,
I don't feel like
they solved it for this one game.
Yeah, I don't feel like, it's like, yeah, done and done. We got it. It's all going to be good. The most infuriating part about it, and kind of to what Doug was speaking about, is when they do play up on the receivers and they get into that bump and run, I feel like they do every bit as good against the deep ball as they do when they play off coverage. The only difference is then they can protect the actual short throws. Instead, they've been playing all this freaking off coverage and still getting burned over the top. It's the worst of both worlds. It's literally the worst of both worlds, and I can't stand it. And I'd like them to either get up on the receivers and actually jam them, or if they're going to play that bail technique, just flat out don't get beat deep. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I was actually listening to Chris Sims talk about the Hawks defense a little bit earlier this week, and he mentioned that the Hawks bring 5 people on the pass rush, so just one blitzer more than any other team in the league. And his stance on that was that is the most pointless kind of blitz a person can make. Because honestly, you're just evening up the numbers, right? 5 offensive linemen, now 5 pass rushers. So really, you're not giving yourself much of an advantage by only bringing one. His point was bring none as terms of blitzers, or really heat them up and do something exotic like Greg Williams style or, Ravens or, things like that. This kind of playing it in between, sort of aggressive, but still sort of conservative, having your cake and eat it too. What we get in that is nothing. We have no cake and we're still hungry.
Well, you did see in this game where they mixed it up a little bit. They only blitzed more than 4 guys 5 times in this game. And I think that was a function of playing Ryan Fitzpatrick because he's going to make mistakes whether you blitz him or not, right? So they only blitzed him 5 times. What I saw different in this game was when what they tried to do was they would send one of the linebackers, drop a defensive lineman back into coverage, and then so they had 4, but trying to confuse how the offensive line was going to account for those 5 different players, and then ultimately 4 because one would drop back. So I think you can do some of that too with the threat of rushing 6 and still deciding to drop 2 maybe, or dropping only 1, and then seeing how the line accounts for that. And I felt like earlier on with Jamal Adams, when he was out there and healthy, they were able to get some more pressure that way. And I think what Sims was getting out too, Adam, is that it doesn't do you as much good just to get extra pressure on particular plays. If you're blitzing, you want to get to the quarterback.
But here's the thing, like you can play. So let's say miraculously we've got Adams back next week and we go back to that particular style of defense. It was working for us in the first 3 or 4 games, but I am not, the first 1 or 2 games, but after 3 or 4 games of this, I'm not sure, even bringing Jamal Adams back, I'm not convinced that what we have on the line is still going to be able to consistently bring us. They're going to figure this out, guys. It's not like Jamal Adams is going to be the magic bullet that once he comes back, we're going to start getting pressure all over again. And it's going to, right. They're going to figure this piece out. And so that's what concerns me for, like, this is actually for me a magic window. I know it's reverse jinx on DCH. So hopefully this is, hopefully this isn't going to turn out badly, but this is the magic window while Adams is out to actually figure this piece out. I think, like, if we cannot figure out how to provide additional pressure, not from the secondary, but actually getting it from the line, and how we can convincingly use some of our young guys in the linebacking crew. If we don't use this next 2 or 3 weeks to figure that out, Jamal Adams is going to come back. And I just don't trust that Pete and crew, and I do believe we have a Ken Norton problem. I don't believe they're not just going to revert back to saying, oh, let's mix Adams back in, and then it's going to get figured out. And I just don't think it's going to go well.
So you're telling me that you are not happy enough with Brian Monet and Rush sharing a half a sack in this game? That is not enough quarterback sacks.
It's not enough quarterback sacks in this game. We should listen against this particular line and against Fitz, who, I mean, I'm sorry, guys. You saw him run just like I did. He gets 10 yards past the line of scrimmage and he falls forward onto his face. Like, it is literally trying to figure out how to, corral a cow sometimes when you're watching them try and bring him down. We couldn't get to him. We couldn't figure it out, guys. And I'm saying, like, this is we wasted, and as far as I'm concerned, we wasted another week of trying to figure this out. Now, was the result great? Yeah, we got to win. We got to win out of it. But I'm a little bit on Adam's side on this. It's not the kind of football that I enjoy watching in terms of I'm scared every single time. I mean, 3 minutes left in the game and we're going to give up another touchdown, right? It's just how it's going to work. Like, there's 3 minutes left in the game. I know we're going to give up another touchdown. And my reverse jinx has to come back into play in the last 5 minutes of the game. Like, it's just, we have to be consistently vigilant on this thing. That's not what I like. I like it. We got to put him away early and keep him down.
Yeah, I wasn't super upset with the defense in this game, though, to be honest. Well, for one, fewest amount of yards that they've given up all season. That was nice. The Seahawks,
when you're giving up 600 yards a game or something like that, is probably pretty good to give up 4.
The Seahawks actually out-yarded their opponent for once in this game. So, hey, whether they count score by points or score by yards, then we get the win in this game. So that's different.
I'm going to give it over to you. What do yards matter?
It depends on your perspective. There's some people that have opinions one way or the other on the yards, but for me, they don't catfish matter. I don't know. Maybe it does to other people like the national media, but
the point that I was getting at was not only that the yards don't matter, but they held the Dolphins to field goals. And
now, this is where I wanted to get to.
Only one punt on the day, which that was their second drive of the game, but they had 2 turnovers. So 1 punt, 2 turnovers, and then 5 straight field goals before, in the last 4 minutes of the game, they got a touchdown.
Right, in that kind of garbage time, and that was annoying, the way that they scored that late, but you still didn't feel like they were in danger at all. But you can see whether this is a Pete Carroll problem, a Ken Norton problem, or a personnel problem, wherever you want to lay the blame, they have decided that the way to play defense this year, with Russ chucking the ball all over the place and scoring a zillion points, is they're going to rely on a turnover or 2 in red zone defense. Now, the silver lining in that is that I think this last week they were 11th in red zone defense and percentage-wise, so, the top third of the league. So I guess if that's your plan, they're executing. But it is difficult to watch when you say the Dolphins, the absolute dumpster fire that is the Miami Dolphins, had 1 punt. The defense could only get 1 stop against Fitzmagic in that offense. That is absolutely terrifying. I can't believe that we've sunk to this level on defense where we're just being like, people talk about bend but don't break. It feels more like a death by 1,000 cuts.
I'm going to be watching this. And I think we're all going to be watching this moving forward on the defense. I want to move back over to the offense because there are dudes
because that's where the sun shines.
Because I am excited about these guys on offense. And DK Metcalf in this game. You referenced that play where nearly a touchdown. And the one reason why I'm so excited about this, because it's another week and it's another reason to be excited about DK Metcalf, because you see him just torching guys down the field one week, right? And now in this game, they decide to play 15 yards off of him. Well, Russ throws a quick pass out to him. And what does he do? He just puts Xavier Howard in the ground and then runs 30 yards down the field. So if you can do those 2 things as a receiver, what are they going to do to stop you? And the NFL is not stopping him. He's on pace. He's got 400 yards through these first 4 games and 3 touchdowns. That puts him easily on pace. It's not like a 1-game sample size. This is a quarter of the season, and he's on pace for 1,600 yards and 12 touchdowns.
Yeah, DK is on pace for, 14 touchdowns, you said?
12.
12 touchdowns, yeah. Future Hall of Famer Ryan Neal is going to have the most interceptions in league history.
If you average out the one that he dropped and count that as like a fraction, like 0.6, then he probably does average out to 14.
Well, there you go. Now, here's the thing. We've talked a little bit about, the defense not playing well. Over the last few weeks, we've talked a bit about the idea that the style of this obviously is not Seahawk football that we all, have kind of come to grow, or most of us that are sane have come to grow and to love under the Pete Carroll era here, and that is great defense and having somebody that runs the ball that completes the circle of toughness that Pete always talked about, right? Marshawn back in the day. Well, I think since they have made the shift to kind of this, air it out, have Russ just do his thing, one way that Pete gets the circle of toughness closed still is with DK, because you put it to me earlier, Brandon, while we were talking, that was a beast mode-esque run for a receiver. Mm-hmm. And so, hey, if we can have that guy that's a tone setter on the perimeter in this pass-happy offense, well, then I guess Pete gets a little bit of what he likes out of that. And I think that's important.
And you still have Chris Carson, and you have him finishing off the game. So, like I said, the defense to me was a lot better in this game than in last, because I do count those stops for field goals as something that I like to see. The turnovers were important, and 15 points going into the last 4 minutes of the game. If the Seahawks can hold a team to that on every single game, I'm not going to have any problems with it.
Yeah, I loved what I saw from DK yesterday, and I agree with both you guys. I think the toughness that we're going to see out of DK in the receiving core, it's going to be a game changer for them. And I guess a little bit of what surprised me in yesterday's receiving game is that so DK did come out and he did provide that toughness. We saw some really cool plays from him throughout the game. But that kind of thing ought to take a little bit of focus off of Lockett to open up and really torch some folks for some yards, which we've seen happen before. But against that suspect defense on the side of the Dolphins yesterday, I would have thought we would have taken advantage of that. If we torched them for a couple with DK, Lockett's just going to find his way open. And he had what? He had two receptions for 39 yards yesterday.
For Lockett.
Yeah.
And he had the one big drop. It probably would have put him up around 60. Are we complaining about Russell Wilson not having 400 yards passing? Guy, he had 360 yards passing and 2 touchdowns. I mean, you can't complain.
You can complain because I'm going to tell you what. This is the first week where he starts to drop off the face of the planet in the MVP conversation. They're just looking for a reason, Brandon. They're just looking for a reason to quit talking about him, and this was going to be the week that it happens.
Yeah, and now everybody's going to be talking about Josh Allen, I suppose, or Tom Brady because he threw 5 touchdowns.
No, Justin Herbert, silly. That's what everybody's talking about next. Hey, the Kyler Murray MVP hype train, that went off the rails this week. I'd love to talk about the rest of the NFC West here in a minute, but Russ actually, not only did he torch the Miami Dolphins defense for 360 yards, he also decided that he was just going to be the OC for a drive, and that was fun.
Yeah, and that was the drive after they were up only 17-15, and that's when he had those 2 nice throws to Tyler Lockett. Lockett had been, absent from a lot of this game up until that drive, so he hits Tyler on a couple nice throws. And then in the back of the end zone, you got David Moore getting both feet down.
A 4-man rush. Russ looks right side. Got a man in the end zone, reaching up, making the catch. David Moore. Is he in for the touchdown? He is. David Moore in the back corner of the end zone. There is a flag down, however. Let's see what that's all about. But David Moore reaches up, makes the catch, looks down, taps his toes in the back of the end zone, and the Seahawks put 6 on the board.
David Moore had himself a day, and really, while that was great to see him score, we all like that. We like touchdowns. I think more impressive was his 50-odd-some yard catch at the end of the first half. I mean, Doug touched on it a little bit. That's kind of where he got to jump in when it was live. Really, when Russ got the ball, 27 seconds left, who here, by raise of hands, thought that we were scoring a touchdown there? Because my hand would be down.
Yeah, and they did have 2 timeouts, and you heard after the game Pete Carroll talking about it, how he seemingly had to be talked into it by his offensive coordinators. And Pete, you got to realize, and maybe this is what will help him to realize, is that you have Russell Wilson. And when you give Russell Wilson 2 timeouts, the other thing Pete did say, he said that the amount of practice they've put in on those moments is what helped earn them those opportunities to go for it in those situations, because they have an idea of the plays that they want to call in those situations.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So, okay, Pete, you have a world beater in Russell Wilson, and you already know if you give him 30 seconds, he's going to do something with it. He can come out and say, "Oh, they've really earned the right to do this," or they've really been practicing hard. Well, tell that to your secondary. So, listen, it's going to be this way from here on out. We were talking about, I think you guys talked about it on previous weeks, and Adam and I were chatting about this a little bit earlier, but this whole idea of whatever happened in the offseason to allow Russell to really, cook or whatever it is we want to say he's doing out there. It could have gone a number of ways, but I really believe that what happened this summer is Russell said, "Guys, I'm ready." I think you even said this too, Adam. "Guys, I am ready to take this on. Like, if you give it to me, you can trust me. You know what my capabilities are, and you know where the edge of my capabilities are." And I think that's what's going to be exciting about this season with me and with all of us for Russ, is that we've now seen a little bit of the edge of capabilities for him. And I think he can actually push beyond that. I think in my heart, that's what let Russ cook means. I think what it is we see the sort of plateau that he could sit at if we let him, and he's going to be able to just break through that barrier this year. I believe if we can see it, he's going to break through that barrier, and we're going to see the next, who knows what, 6, 7, 8 years of a quarterback who just takes over the league. If, and this is a big if the media will have it, if the media is going to have him. Like, he's already done things that we have, we hear on a weekly basis about Aaron Rodgers or, Brady or whoever it was in the past. And now we're coming up on Mahomes and, great. I think he actually has another gear that we've just begun to see. And now the let Russ cook piece is we're going to see that gear take place.
And whether you like that phrase or not, that phrase is now in the national consciousness. And it's because we're seeing it on Sunday Night Football. We're hearing Chris Collinsworth and now Michael say it on TV. And I think that's part of what is making this. People are starting to catch on and they're thinking Russell Wilson is must-watch TV for an average football fan now.
Yeah, absolutely. The phrase, the slogan has definitely taken over. Now, with that said, and to kind of further Doug's point here, what's happening right now with the Seahawks reminds me a lot of kind of the arc that the Patriots went on with Tom Brady. You watch them in their first iteration where they were winning Super Bowls, right? And it was defense first, run the ball, Tom Brady, kind of be more of a game manager. And then there came the second kind of iteration of the Patriots, and it was Tom Brady, Randy Moss, and that gang throwing it all over the yard and going to Super Bowls and winning Super Bowls. So as far as, whether the media will have Russ or not, like if he perennially gets the Seahawks in the playoffs, which he just does, and then also wins one more chip and maybe gets to 2 more Super Bowls, it's impossible to ignore that he is the most dominant player of this section of football, this era of football. And if he can do what Brady has done, which is go from this where Russ is just starting the QB masterclass part of his career, where he has all the physical tools, all the mental tools, and then all the tricks on top of all of that. Once that era ends, if he can go to the next level like Brady did, where the physical tools start to diminish, but then you really dominate mentally, and they have a third iteration of this team with, a whole nother core of players around him, he will be in that conversation that he wants to be in, the greatest of all time.
Yeah, but and you said this a second ago, if you've got the mental traits, the physical traits, and the tricks, and I'll tell you this year, one of the greatest things that I've seen in his growth this year is a little bit less reliance on the trick, right? Like all of us love seeing the pirouette, and we're gonna do a double pirouette. We're gonna throw a dime down. We loved that, Russ, and that's awesome, great. But this year, instead of taking that pirouette and losing 2 or 3 yards on it, and the possibility of getting sacked, which we've seen year over year now he takes a stutter step forward to the left, and then you see him take 1 or 2 steps into the pocket to the right, and he sets himself up perfectly. Now, it helps that we've got an offensive line the last couple of years who is, really well rated in the pass blocking game, and they're giving him what that pocket thingy that we talk about. That's great. But it's
not even a thingy anymore, Doug. It's a pocket.
It's a pocket now. But his ability now to utilize that, we have less of a reliance on the trick. And when the trick comes out, that's the thing, like, guys, that's why I'm saying, like, I look at Mahomes, and yeah, Mahomes is going to get all kinds of great attention because he can, contort his arm into like 6 different directions and throw backwards and, great. Like, it's all great tricks, but when is he going to grow into the next thing? And that's what we're watching Wilson do right now.
Yeah, you're not just seeing the physical tricks. You're seeing some of the mental side of the game work its way in, too. And it was that pass to David Moore in the back of the end zone where they caught, you heard Rabel in the call mention the flag down on the field. It's because they caught him with 12 guys on the field, and Russell knew that he had 4 guys going to the end zone and just able to chuck it back there to David Moore. He gets his feet in, and it's those types of moments when you can catch a defense off guard and recognize when that's happening. Not everybody can do that, and knowing when those moments are is going to be just another one of those tools in the bag for him.
Yeah, one of the other mental moments that I really enjoyed in this game when you're talking about Russ and his evolution was down on the goal line, the touchdown to Homer. He's locked on to Greg Olsen and just standing tall, and this is not a pun, I'm not making fun of his height. He was standing tall in the pocket for Russ and just not moving. I'm getting nervous, right? Like,
yeah, because it's like 1, 2, 3, and you're like, get rid of it.
Yeah, get rid of it. Start moving, do something, right? But what he was doing was so genius, and it wasn't something you'd do in the past. In the past, he tried to force that up, Jimmy Graham, to the corner of the end zone and never be successful on the fade. And he knows that's not a ball that he throws well. So he sat there and he stared down Greg Olsen, who was covered pretty dang well, and did it so long that the linebacker, after Homer leaked out after chipping, just decided that he couldn't stay with him any longer. He needed to go over there. He moved him with his eyes and then drilled it to Homer. Touchdown Seahawks. It was awesome.
Yeah, Travis Homer with the first touchdown of his career too, and the highlight of the game for Travis Homer for sure, and not many other highlights for him, but nice to see a little DJ Dallas on the field a couple moments in this game.
Sure.
I think that's the guy who I'd like to see on some of those runs. He just seems a little shiftier to me.
I don't really see it with him.
But Dallas?
Not at all. I said it when he was drafted, man. Yeah. That guy has almost zero wiggle. Like he's a one cut downhill runner, and not only that, but he's not a punisher at the end of his runs.
I think he can develop that. He has the size for it, at least. But.
Yeah, he has the size for it, but I've seen other backs with the size to be a punishing running back, Sean Alexander, that never turns into that.
Right. Well, let's move on to this game coming up against the Minnesota Vikings, Adam. The Seahawks, they are 4-0. The Vikings come into this game 1-3 after a win over the Houston Texans, which I didn't think was going to happen. I thought Houston would be able to get this win, especially going through the gauntlet of teams that they did, nearly getting the win against Pittsburgh. And they just did not seem to have the physical toughness to match up with even a Minnesota Vikings team.
Yeah, it was interesting to watch the Texans implode. I think maybe they were trying to quit on their coach so that he would pay GM to get fired, and they nailed it. It'll be nice to see that organization without the handprint of Bob all over it. Like he's just terrible. I've not been a fan of his for years and years, so not sad to see him go. But it is interesting to watch yet another Russ Cousins duel go down here. And there another pair of quarterbacks in the league that have faced each other more in college and the pros combined than Russ and Cousins?
You know, when you were talking about all of these young quarterbacks and Russell kind of getting into his own in his career, you look around the league and there's really not a lot of quarterbacks that are in that same type of age range as Russell Wilson, except for Kirk Cousins. And I think that Russ has kind of owned this matchup.
Yeah, Russ has owned pretty much every other matchup too. Let's just be honest. But Cousins, guys, he's a conundrum to me. He always, for some reason or another, he always surprises me. He comes into these games with Russ, and he seems to put up great numbers. He seems to be able to run. He can pass. He can do a little bit of everything that Russ can. Obviously not as well as Russ can. But I'm really interested to see how he brings an energy to this particular game. If there's a trap game in our future, it could be this one. I mean, I'll be a little DCH on it, but in a reverse jinx. But this is one of those games that I think Cousins, because he is of the same age and there's a comparison piece there, Cousins comes to compete against Russ. And so to your point, Brent, we don't have Andrew Luck around anymore. Thank goodness for all the comparisons that had to go through. But now we're seeing this. Like, this is the next one for us to kind of be compared with in his age range and all of that. And I think it could be a bit of a struggles bus.
I don't know. It might be a little bit of a disservice to not have Andrew Luck around to compare Russ to from that draft now, because it's just essentially him and Cousins. I guess is Tannehill. Maybe you'd throw Tannehill into that mix of company too.
Maybe.
No, it's interesting you bring up Tannehill. And you're saying, well, who are the other guys kind of in that discussion? I was trying to rack through those real quickly in my brain because I was trying to remember the draft before and after too.
Yeah, Carr.
Russ. So let's just talk about, though, you guys both mentioned Luck out of the league. The other guy, RG3, that was supposedly his peer, right? Nope. RG3 is a backup. Tannehill, I think we all know what Tannehill is.
I guess Foles bouncing around.
Foles, and then Brock and roll out of the league, right?
Yeah.
So that's just from that draft class. And then, you brought up Carr from the one right around there. All of these guys from that era, there's only really one that has come out and stood head and shoulders above the rest, and it's easily Russ. And I think easily the second guy is Cousins. Now, Doug kind of mentioned, he's kind of a conundrum. And is he? I think this is actually pretty easy to, suss out Cousins. Is this a big game?
No.
Then he'll probably play well. So, like, basically,
it's not really a big game for him. It is, And normally you say, well, it's going to be a primetime Sunday night game, and Cousins always seems to fold in those. And I don't know if it's going to feel the same. I guess it's still going to be under the lights in CenturyLink, and it might feel more eerie than anything with the dark sky and the light shining down and no fans in the stands for this one. He did have a few fans that he was playing in front of in Houston for this last game. But I don't know how this is going to feel for him. And I guess, if I had to guess, it's not going to feel like a big game for him.
I don't think it's going to feel like a big game for him because it's not. They're in the cellar. The Seahawks don't need this win per se.
Yeah.
I mean, this isn't one of those games. There's a lot on the line. I mean, you're talking about whether the fans are there or not and whether he'll feel the. That's not why Kirk Cousins fails under the pressure. He feels the pressure personally
right.
when there's a big game and there's a lot on the line, right? And it's just not there. So expect to see Cousins come out and string together like 2-3 drives that have 3-4 high-level throws mixed in there. I mean, he really can make all of the throws when there's no pressure on him. But the second that, he feels that. So if the Seahawks keep this a close game and Russ and the offense keep piling the points up and it comes down to Cousins having the pressure on his shoulders to keep up, that's going to be a problem for him. And really, when I look at this matchup, when it comes to shutting down Cousins, I mean, that will kind of take care of itself if you first shut down Dalvin Cook and Madison. That is the most important thing in this game. Shut down the run, shut down the run, shut down the run, because that's what Zimmer wants to do. That's why he got rid of the offensive coordinator last year. He wanted to run the ball more. They've made a concerted effort at it. Now, the results haven't been great, and the Seahawks have actually been pretty good against the run. So, I mean, yeah, they're going to force Cousins to beat him.
How wild is it that this is a matchup between the team that wants to run the ball the most through the first 4 games of the season and the team that wants to pass the ball, or that has passed the ball the most through 4 games of the season?
Normally, I would say that the running team's going to win that matchup every time, but we've also got a couple of defenses. I hear you, Brandon. I hear you, Brandon. I hear you, Brandon. They were better this week. Okay, great. I still think we got a couple of defenses here that I'm not sure that being great at running is going to matter one way or another. I think this is going to be something that I actually think, if it works out the way that everybody should expect it to, I think Russell should be able to throw his way all day long. There shouldn't be any pressure on either quarterback. I think we do have the ability to probably stop the run to the degree we need to and force Cousins to get out there and try and beat us. And that's why I say it's a bit of a trap game, because I personally just don't know what Cousins shows up. I'm not quite as confident as you, Adam. I'm not sure. It's not a great, it's not a huge pressure-filled game for him, but I'm just not as confident that Cousins doesn't come out sometimes and just go, the hell with it. I'm going to try and win this thing, right? And this could be the game he just does it. He just decides.
The Vikings do have the weapons in this game that gives Kirk Cousins, it gives you that little bit of concern with Cousins, with Justin Jefferson, the rookie looking so good for this team. And yes, they gave up Stephon Diggs, but man, Jefferson's looking good filling in behind him. They still have Adam Thielen. And, Dalvin Cook this season has been the top running back by far. Yeah. The thing that gives me hope, though, in this, on the defensive side for the Seahawks, is that they have been able to shut down the run. Yeah. And you look at the game with Zeke Elliott, and they knew that was the piece that they had to shut down. They focused on it, and they got it shut down. And that is really the key to stopping the Minnesota Vikings offense, because they want to do that first. If Kirk Cousins gets out to an early lead, then and they can continue to hammer that running game that works out perfect for him. His ability to throw and play action. There was a Vikings podcast that I was listening to. They were talking about the difference this season in Kirk Cousins in his ability to throw play action. His quarterback rating was somewhere north of the 130 mark, so about where Russell Wilson has been this whole season. So if you think about when play action is working, then Kirk Cousins is Russell Wilson. But when play action isn't working, Kirk Cousins is, bottom of the league quarterback, around a 60 quarterback rating.
This feels like deja vu all over again, because I saw this exact thing in almost everything that you said right there in week 3 when describing the Dallas Cowboys and Dak.
This is Dallas.
This game is going to be an exact mirror of that. When I look at
with better safety play from the Vikings.
Maybe. When I look at the Minnesota Cowboys, I mean, they're the exact same team. It's unbelievable to me.
And it's funny because a lot of the defense, too, they're struggling on the defensive line. No Danielle Hunter. He's hurt. And they're asking, is he actually going to be able to come back from his neck injury? They did pick up Yannick Ngakoue. So, I guess maybe they're Aldon Smith in this game. And then Eric Kendricks at linebacker for the Vikings. He's their Jalen Smith for the Cowboys. But the cornerbacks for this Vikings team, I just don't see Russell having a problem throwing on Hill or the other young guys on the other side of the field. It's going to be another big game for Russell. This might be the time where they go 30 or more points for 5 straight games.
This is probably a dumb question, but where in the hell did their defense go? The Vikings, where did they go? This used to be a vaunted defense just a couple of years ago, and I know there's been some injuries and there's been some movement.
Yeah. Anthony Barr got hurt, and with Danielle Hunter hurt, and then Everson Griffin leaves. They can't pay everybody.
Well, yeah, but they went from what was, it wasn't quite as historic as our, vaunted defenses of 13, 14. But it was being talked about as a really, really good
top
defense.
5, yeah,
top 5 defense. And they just went off the face of the planet, it feels like. And yeah, a lot could be said about our defense over the last, 8 years too, going down. but it took us, a heck of a lot longer than just a couple of seasons. I just wonder what's going on in the Vikings defensive rooms that's causing this to happen. I again, another thing, guys, everything I think about when I think about this game is it a trap game for us? Like, I just don't understand how we've gotten where we are with some of these guys.
Do you think that the Seahawks can put up 38 points in this game?
Oh my God, I would hope so.
Yeah, well then they should be able to win.
Yeah, well, yeah. Well, okay, so there you go. So let me make my official call. Is it a good time for making my official DCH call? All right. I think this game is going to be, it's going to be the trap game that I think it's going to be. I think Russell's going to put up 2 touchdowns. He's going to have 2 picks. I think the end score is going to be Vikings. What did you say? 38 points. We had to put up 38 points. Yeah. I think it's going to be Vikings 34, Seahawks 27.
This is a hardcore reverse jinx.
Yeah, we're gonna lose. Well, yeah. So that's the prediction for this game. Okay, it's going to be a 34-27 loss to the Vikings. But here's the big DCH prediction. Okay, so if you're gonna have me on, you might as well have the big one.
Uh-huh.
All right. So we're 4-0. Okay,
right.
Everybody's seen all the memes. You've seen the memes. You've seen all the memes, right?
Oh yeah, all the knock jokes.
Yeah, I got knock.
We've never, and the Seahawks have never been 5-0 in franchise history.
Yep.
And this is their chance. This is their chance. Okay. DCH.
Okay, so this is what's going to happen right here, guys. So we're currently 4-0. We're going to end the season. I'm going to give you a season prediction. Okay, we're going to end the season at 4-8. There's going to be 12 games this year. They're going to cut us short because of this COVID business.
And the Seahawks lose out 8 straight.
We're going to lose the next 8 games in a row. However, not only are we going to lose the next 8 games in a row because we're historically bad defense this year, Russell is going to throw for, let's call it, what did he have yesterday? 2. So what's he at now? 15? 15 touchdowns. He's going to throw 31 more touchdowns.
Okay.
In the next 8 games.
I think he's at 16.
16? Okay.
Yeah, he's on pace. He's on Manning's 55 touchdown pace.
Okay, so he's going to get 31 more touchdowns in the next 8 losses, and they're going to cut the season short. And all the talk about Russell Wilson and the MVP, the talk is going to be this, that he was going to be the MVP of the first losing team in NFL history. The whole NFL is going to shut down at week 12, and they're going to be, the whole talk of the offseason is going to be how this would have been Russell's first MVP ever. The Seahawks were, they sucked all year, but he was going to win the MVP. And because we closed the season early, there's not going to be any awards this year, no Super Bowl for anybody. And that's how it's going to go down, guys. It's the year of COVID. So 4-8, Russell's going to end with, what did we say? 16 plus 31. I told there's going to be math, Adam. Okay. We're going to have to do math. Yep, 31, 47. Okay. 47 touchdowns, in 12 games. No MVP for the rest of the season. That's it. That's where we're going. Okay.
This
reverse
is
jinx forever.
We are watching a master at his craft right now. This is essentially Babe Ruth pointing to the fences, calling his shot. Adam, if I'm reading between the lines here.
Yep.
The Seahawks are going to the Super Bowl.
Yeah, I mean, really, they may win 2 this year. I mean, the DCH on brand today and taking big cuts. Like, he doesn't get to be here that often, and so I appreciate the fact that he went big before he went home. I thought that was great. we all do have some concerns about the season going on forward, and maybe we can talk about that in the second half of the show a little bit. But, there is a part of me that does have this little bit of fear that this will be another season that Russell Wilson receives 0 MVP votes because they won't finish the damn season. Like, it feels like there's almost, a football god that is against this.
It does. So why don't we do that? Well, let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll close this out. We'll talk about, we'll go around the NFC West. We'll talk about some of the concerns that popped up with the rest of the season this past week and get into some do better and better at life. Should we bring on Max for a break?
Yeah.
Now that we're in the break? What do you want, Max? What have you been feeling about the Seahawks so far this year? Nothing. What's been your favorite moment that you can think of so far this season?
I don't know.
More important question, Max. Have I been good or bad this year on the podcast?
Bad Adam.
No, it was live. I got Bad Adam live. This is awful. In the woods at my own cabin.
Well, we talked about it a little bit going into the break, some of the concerns with the NFL season. You hit on it a little bit with your prediction here, GCH. And we got a little bit of a scare this past week with the Titans and the Steelers having to postpone their game. And we saw that Cam Newton got a positive test. They pushed back the Patriots game against the Chiefs to Monday night. A little unfortunate. We didn't get to see Cam out there taking on Patrick Mahomes. And then there was another positive test that ended up being a false positive with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah.
And with all of that news coming at once, you started to get that sense of, here is where the season starts to go off the rails a little bit.
Yeah, it's tough to say. I think this was an interesting week because we had multiple cases impacting multiple games, and it's coming, right? I didn't enter this season thinking, well, we're not going to see anything.
Fine. It'll be fine.
Exactly, it'll be totally fine. But at the same time, it does make you wonder. So we had the false positive. Obviously, these players get tested every single day. There's going to be more positive cases. What's the threshold, right? Like, I'm sure the league, and Brendan, you may know this, but I'm sure the league has a particular threshold. Hey, if we see X amount of cases, we're shutting the whole thing down, or whatever that looks like.
And maybe not the whole season, but at least game to game with the Titans, we saw where the threshold hit, and It did give us, I think, a little bit of a picture of, okay, we're going to see how these late in the week tests go. Like with the Titans, initially they said, well, we could push it back to Monday or maybe even Tuesday. And then as they started to see, okay, we have a few more cases here, it's kind of past that threshold to where you could say, okay, let's go ahead and just really load up from their practice squad and try and field a 53-man roster. It got beyond that, and so that's when they got to the postponement thing. And then we saw with the Patriots, which was kind of incredible that it was just the quarterback.
Yeah.
But that's where they saw, okay, we got a positive test here. Let's push it back and see how the rest of these tests go. And then if it is just one or two guys and it's relatively isolated, then the game can go on and they don't have to make a postponement.
Yeah, I don't know how to think about the whole season in terms of this because, before the season started, I don't know if you all saw, but, the Seahawks put out, a PR video basically about all the protocols and how they're going to handle the season. And I mean, guys, it's impressive the things that they are doing to try to keep players and coaches safe. And then we get into the season a little bit. I think wasn't it up through like week one even there hadn't been any positive cases anywhere in the NFL, and so it was feeling like it was whatever they were doing was working. But then we started to hear this weird. There was all those fines, right? Week 1 or week 2 on the sideline about the coaches, and which made no sense to me, right? Everybody's getting tested the same. Everybody's doing the same rounds of testing, and the players are running around everywhere without a mask on, but yet our coaches are getting fined. And that was the first clue to me to say, whoa, who am I to question the NFL? And yet I'm going to question the NFL. Like, what are we actually focused on when it comes to the prevention? And are we focusing on the wrong things here? I don't know. And so it makes me think, well, as we get into the season, are we going to have to make, are they going to have to make calls on the fly? Are they saying, that we've got to hit certain thresholds, but then they're going to get a little scared after 2 or 3 teams got to drop a couple of weeks and maybe we need to pull back. And I don't know. I think it to me, it just feels like the NFL is a little a little on edge about how they want to handle this whole thing.
Well, and I think part of it is now when you do see that big outbreak with the Titans, you get to thinking, okay, well, what if you are in that window when it's going through the team? And, luckily the Vikings came out of that game without any positive tests. If you have your coaches at least protected on the sideline, maybe it helps slow the spread somewhat. So maybe there is something to that. And I mean, it wasn't just the NFL this past week. It was, the world of Washington, D.C. that came under all kinds of cases. We saw that go through. So I think it was a little bit of a heads up to everybody that, okay, this, the NFL with what they're doing, yeah, it's been great, but at any time it can hit a locker room and impact on a big way.
There seems to be these kind of waves of this that sweep through, whether it's a state or a team or a city, where and it's kind of unique to its own culture, right? So the NFL right now, they just had one little wave, right, that came through. I kind of wonder, when you guys talk about thresholds and everything like that, maybe it's okay, 4 or 5 games can't be played. All right, we just push this whole week back. And
they have prepared for that in terms of the Super Bowl being able to be held on multiple different dates.
Yeah.
Because that's what you worry about with these venues and being able to reserve things, and towns being able to prepare for an event if they are eventually able to have people at an event like the Super Bowl when it gets to February. So
well, look, Tampa is going to be ready and willing and able to put on the Super Bowl any weekend that the NFL says that that's going to happen. And I guess this is what I was going to come back to kind of further the point is, there's too much damn money on the table. What for the NFL and for, like, say, the city of Tampa when the Super Bowl finally does come around. So I could see this kind of hitting the league in waves here and there, and maybe we have spurts of stopping and starting, and it kind of goes in the season. Weeks 1 through 4 happen, and then we got to take a week off, and then weeks 5 through 10 happen, and oh crap, now we got to take 3 weeks off, and I could easily see it going that way. But the one thing that I do feel fairly freaking certain about is every one of these teams is going to play all of their games, and those owners are going to cash all of them TV checks. I'm pretty sure that's happening.
And it may be to where they have games every single weekend, but we may see a team finish the season with only 12 games, with only 13 games. And at that point, if depending on what track the NFL's on, they might just say, hey, we're going by winning percentage, guys. I know it sucks. I know that this team may go 0-3 for their next 3 games and miss the playoffs, but we have to make a decision now to get to where we need to be at the end of the season, to finish and complete a season. And we might just have to accept that. And I think I would be accepting of that, just considering the season.
Well, it's that, or they go a little bit like, the MLB did it this year, and just at some point in the season, they may end up saying, look, we've had to miss this week, or we pushed a few too many games out here or there.
Selectively cancel a few games.
Exactly. Let's just say instead of a 16 game season, we're going to go to 14 or 13
right,
or whatever. I do think they're probably going to have to make a decision at some point if we start to see more and more cases like this where we got games that are going to be pushed, or, thankfully nothing this week got actually canceled. They just got pushed into some later times. But we're going to get a point in the season where they're going to have to make that call. Is it going to be, I'm going to push this game to, Tuesday or Wednesday or whatever it looks like. And then when are teams going to start saying, wait a minute, you're going to make me play on a Tuesday night and then turn around and throw me on Sunday morning again? Or what happens for those teams that are, and I'm sure they've got all plans for this, but what happens for those teams who get pushed to a Monday and then they've got a Thursday game scheduled the next day? Are they going to cancel it and push it to the end of the season? And then how far do we push out? Right. So these are all great questions that I think at some point, where does the season go? How far are we going to go with it?
And we all pray to the football gods as well as the regular gods that everybody who gets it comes out of it healthy, because if something bad happens, then that would definitely be a reason for the end of the season. And so, yes, pray to all the gods, much like I was praying to all the gods that the Philadelphia Eagles would be able to get the win over those dirty San Francisco 49ers. And they did it, Adam.
They surely did. And Nick Mullins, he didn't have himself a game and sat perplexed on the podium after.
He wanted to show you that your prediction would prove to be false, and that maybe
We'll see.
maybe when I misspoke and said that Beathard would be the one to take over the team, maybe that was maybe that's what we're going to see here.
I'm still not convinced Garoppolo's any better. And, the Niners, with those defensive injuries, they're going to struggle going down the stretch here. Much like you saw the Rams struggle this week, even though they did get the win. They beat the Giants 17-9? I mean, I was sitting there for the last few weeks saying this gimmicky Sean McVay bullshit was going to come to an end. The league was going to figure it out. When I saw some writer from The Ringer had it all figured out and noticed that he stole all his plays from the freaking Ravens and he was using that. When I saw that he had that figured out, I was very certain the rest of the league would figure it out. And the Giants, with their depleted roster, managed to hold the crappy-ass Rams to 17 points.
Wait, remind me again, Adam. Who's the quarterback on the Giants team again?
Two first names. Daniel Jones.
Yeah. And is he good?
No, he's bad. Just like we all knew he was from the beginning.
And I don't know what happened here, but I was actually quite surprised at the end score of that game. I mean, last week the whole national media was talking about how oh gosh, the Rams are back. Oh, the Rams are coming back, and last week, 2 weeks ago, whatever it was. I was so surprised to see. Of course, this was another game that I missed. I was in the car, but as I was able to get reception and check out the score, I thought something was wrong. Like, there's no way that there was that kind of a scoring game, right?
Refresh, Brandon.
Yeah. I am. Everybody knows we hate the Lambs, but at the end of the day, my question about the Rams right now is, if we're going to see some kind of resurgence from the Rams this year, is it going to be in this next 3 or 4 game stretch for them, right? So somebody's got the schedule, I'm sure, right in front of them. But I was looking at it last week and thinking, look, if we're actually going to, because as the conversation around the Rams is getting better, begins, as it always does every year. Oh, the Rams are coming back a little bit. I started to look at a stretch in the schedule and think, I'm not sure that I actually see it. If there is a portion of the schedule where they might get lucky and they might have a little bit of a resurgence and gain a little momentum, is it this one coming up, the next 3 or 4 games? I can't remember who it is.
Yeah, the next 3 games for the Rams are Rams football team, Rams 49ers, and Rams Bears. And then the Rams Dolphins before they take on the Seahawks.
There it is. It's the Bear. It's that little stretch. Of course, you never know what you're going to get in division. So the Rams, Niners, there you go. And then you got the Bears and the Dolphins, right? So if they're going to make any kind of a comeback in this season a little bit, it could be that little stretch.
Yeah, okay. We just saw them against the Giants. Would you put them in? Would you put them in that same category as Bears, Dolphins, dumpster fire? Because I would. Yep. And they gave him everything that they could handle. And Daniel Jones is under constant pressure. Their offensive line just didn't show up. I thought, were the Giants not hit by COVID? And did they not have all their practice squad guys up on the offensive line? Because it surely freaking looked like it.
Yeah, I get it. I just think that the Rams do tend to, they just don't go away. I mean, we all want them to go away.
They went away last year. Well, they're gone now.
I hope they're gone. I hope you're right. Yeah. But they don't always not show up.
The thing about the Rams this year, Adam, is that, and one of the reasons why I predicted them to not be good is I didn't think they'd have a running game, and I didn't think they'd have an offensive line. They have those two things from what we've seen through these first 4 games.
You know what else they have? Jared Goff.
But I think if he has those things, I think if he has an offensive line and if he has a running game, he could at least be decent Jared Goff.
If he has tricky Sean McVay plays that nobody's seen, then Jared Goff can be effective. But again, the league is already caught up to it. You've seen it happen.
I feel like they've regressed a little bit.
Yeah. So they're
the
screwed.
league. I mean, the league has regressed in figuring him out.
How? What, they let him?
They're 3-1.
They let him have 3 good weeks instead of 2 good weeks for the season? The league totally regressed. You're right.
I bet by the midway point, Adam, the Seahawks and Rams are going to be tied atop the NFC West.
There's no bleeping way
now
that happens.
The second half of the schedule is a lot harder for the Rams, and I don't see them keeping pace with that. But if they're not, if after 8 weeks, after 8 games apiece, if they're not tied, I will be surprised.
What did we just say? These next 5 games are cupcake games for the Rams?
Yeah, they're relatively easy.
There's 2 losses in there. I promise you that. You see Russ and company dropping 2?
I could see. Okay, they play the Vikings,
and I'll tell you why they won't drop 2. Okay, because we are 25% of the way through the season if they play all 16.
Yeah,
and they have how many losses?
0.
Oh, okay. And then also, too, when you look historically at the offenses that have put up the kind of numbers the Seahawks have over the first 4 weeks of the season, they all have gone 13-3 and at least to the conference championship.
Yeah.
So the maximum amount of wins that or losses that the Seahawks can have at this point is 3. Now, if the Rams lose 2 in the next 5, which they're going to,
they'll already have 3 losses.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And 50% of the season will be over.
I don't think that they're going to lose that many, and I think they even have the potential to go 4-0 over the stretch. The Seahawks have to play the Bills over these next 4 games, and I think the Vikings might be the second toughest game. But then they have the 2 divisional matchups in there too against the Cardinals and Niners.
Right, absolutely, and we actually saw these last 2 weeks the Cardinals begin to unravel, and that's been about as much fun for me as you'd all expect. I've enjoyed watching the pretty boy coaches take their lumps here now this season here in 2020. Yeah, they figured out Kyler Murray and company again. These are things that I said would happen that are happening without question. I'm basically the Miss Cleo of the NFC West.
Yeah, I got to say, I am not looking forward to going down and playing Arizona, though. How many? Oh, the field is cursed. The field is cursed. I'll say it now, so that we can just cleanse the hawker out here in the woods as we are. We're gonna lose 3 key players that week. We're absolutely, without a doubt, losing 3 key players that week, and it's gonna tank part of the season for us because we can't go down there and play them and win and come out with no injuries. It's just not a possibility.
Somebody will have to make sure Budda Baker is on the bench for that game one way or another. I'm not wishing injury on him. I'm just wishing for him to be on the sidelines and not in the actual game.
Yeah, to take a day off. I'm a little thinking that Bills game is probably the toughest game out of the 3, right? Like
it might be the toughest game of the season.
It could be the toughest game of the season. Yeah, absolutely. And if we can enter week or game 9 sitting at 8 and 7-1 going into week 9, are we not seeing a Super Bowl? Like honestly, like if that's going to be our toughest game,
I thought you were just. I thought I heard you
I could only hold it in so long
talking about going to the Super Bowl. I know you didn't say it outright, but I read between the DCH words that you said, and that's what I heard.
You did. Listen, I'm looking down the schedule right now, and I don't see anything past that game, anything past the Bills that scares me. There's always the interconference games or the interdivision games that are a worry, but holy cow, guys, like this is, if we're going to get there this year, we're going to get there, and it's going to be past the Bills. And then I think, it's all going to be dependent on what we talked about earlier, Brent. It's all going to be whether or not we play a full season, if we're actually going to get a full playoffs in, and then when is that Super Bowl going to happen, and can we get in? I see a lot of great things there. I am so not confident about our defense, though. Like, honestly, I hate to take us back there, but it is. I mean, that's the one worry I have. I think Russ can take us all the way to a championship. And I hope what happens is it's not a reverse of Super Bowl 48. Like, there's no defense out there that could rival what we were then.
Right.
But is there a good enough defense out there that can shut it down?
I just don't know if looking at recent history that, that defense could be the Seahawks defense.
What's that?
I think if you have defenses in the Super Bowl where you look at one side and you say, well, this team has the kind of guys on defense that have the ability to make impact plays to really influence the outcome of the game. I think you put the Seahawks in the Super Bowl against any other team in the AFC where you say, okay, what other dominant defense is there? I don't see it from the Bills so far. I don't see it from the Ravens so far with them not being able to slow down Patrick Mahomes at all. We didn't see,
from the Chiefs even.
From the Chiefs, yeah. So where does that dominant defense come from? Is it the Colts?
I'm going to kind of withhold judgment on which defenses are actually going to be good until week 8.
Okay.
I think it's probably time to give a little bit of a pause to having, knee-jerk reactions to the way that things have gone so far this season.
Yeah, like you did last week.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'm just trying the nature calms me, Brandon. Like, this has all been a lot more copacetic for me. But the thing about it is that it's really not going to be that much different than any other season in the sense of we've all been conditioned to get out the heart meds and, deal with one possession games, and it's whether Russ can save us or not on that last drive, right?
Mm-hmm.
The only difference is instead of it being, will we win 27-24 or will we lose 24-20? Now it's, will we win 42-37? Exactly. That's
you
all
just
I do.
Bump up the score about
you
10,
just bump
15
up the
points.
score. It's the same stuff, and we're ready for this. We are built for this. And Russell Wilson is built for this. Pete Carroll's built for this. So I like our chances. I do see Russ probably having 2 clunker games. Pete blowing one game when he gets hormonal, and that gives us our 3 losses. But 13-3 and a 1 seed, which will be such a gigantic bummer in the sense that we won't get the home field advantage that we would desperately like to have by being the 1 seed. But the other thing that is a factor throughout all this and going down the stretch here is you are seeing that on these neutral sites that the real teams that are supposed to win are winning.
Yeah.
I mean, take the home field out of it, and it makes a big difference. I don't miss it.
I do miss it a little bit. And for me, it was nice to at least see some people in the stands in Miami. It was nice to hear that the players got something out of it, at least getting a sense of some reaction that when you score a good play, everybody acts as you would expect it to, rather than it just being kind of eerily quiet.
Yeah, and didn't all of our hearts break just a tad at the end of that last game in which one was it where we won right at that last, was it week 2 or 3?
Where the Patriots, when the Cam down at the goal line.
Right, and that huge defensive stand. And didn't it break your heart just a little bit for all the players to come out and say, man, could you imagine what it would have been like tonight with the 12s out there?
But you can tell that they feel it, though. And so I feel like that's one of the, everybody, you were just bagging on Pete about him being emotional. Because Pete's emotional, he may have injected enough emotion into this team, the way they feel it on the sidelines, that I think in a weird season like this, that's going to bring something different to the sideline.
I think you're right.
Whereas Bill O'Brien, who just got fired, doesn't have any of that.
The players don't care. No, I totally agree. And I think, along those same lines, when the players were saying, oh, man, can you imagine what it would have been like to have the 12s here? In the same breath, you heard many of them say, but we were there. I hope you heard us being that for you. The fact that the 12s are so strong in the culture of the Seahawks locker room really came out, and it's really coming out this year. We've always, as fans, I think we've always taken great pride in being 12s. We've taken pride in being the loudest stadium in the NFL. We've taken a lot of pride in what we do and how we show up. And I think what's really cool this year, even without fans in the stadium, is the team. And Pete talks about it all the time in press conferences. The team really, like the spiritual or whatever you want to call it, that connection they have to us as fans still exists without us there, right? They still talk about it. They say they want to show up as 12s on the sidelines when that's happening. That last play, when they stuffed Cam, that they were cheering as loud as they could, trying to be 12s. And I think that's what's super cool. I hate seeing empty stadiums. I think it's weird, guys. I'm not quite... I'm not even sure I really like seeing a few fans in the stadium. It's just weird to me. I'm glad people are enjoying it. I'm glad people can get out there and attend a game and you can hear some like actual real cheering. But I think it's weird. And to be able to hear the players say, no, we hear you. You are the 12th man. You're out there. And though you can't physically be with us, let us take your place too. Let us be those guys on the sideline who are going to do it for you and with you. I think that's awesome. I think it makes me super proud to be a 12. I don't hear anybody else talking about it. I mean, I'm sure there are, but I don't hear Mahomes getting up and going, "Oh my God, the Chiefs Nation was there tonight, and I really felt it. You guys were awesome." I don't see it.
See, that's how I know that you haven't been listening to Chiefs fans, because Chiefs Kingdom, Doug, that's their big because somehow, like, they didn't go back in their history, like, most of the Native American tribes, they didn't have kingdoms. That was over in Europe where they had castles and
catfish.
What do you say we welcome some new members of the Flock Kingdom?
Yeah, it has no ring. I love it.
So what if it's not Flock Kingdom? What do we go with?
Flock's Nest?
I don't know.
I don't either.
We're welcoming some new members of the flock, Adam.
Yeah, okay, good.
Let's start with John Hanai, who came in at $12 a month for the whole year, making the annual commitment. Welcome to the flock to John.
Oh, man, appreciate that a ton, dude. And, like Brandon said, welcome to the flock. We'll decide, what it is. It's a nation, kingdom, whatever, after that. Maybe John has a suggestion. We need his help, clearly.
Ozzy is on board at $12.12. Welcome to the flock to Ozzy.
Man, welcome, dude, and welcome to the Ring of Honor and the Discord chat. Again, it's where all the cool kids are.
It is. And Ozzy, I'm expecting him to be in shortly. His invite is in his inbox.
And he hasn't responded yet?
No, it's taken him a couple days. I'm very disappointed.
Do better.
And Daniel Weinholtz is in at $12.12. So, Daniel.
I like how he pretended to still be in for a while. And I just kept sneaking in as like a pseudo freeloader.
No, he's contributing the buck knives.
I'm just giving.
I think what happened here, Adam, is that all of our promotion of buck knives on the show, got Daniel a promotion at his job to where now he goes, okay, now I can continue to support at that $12.12. And pay my way inside the Ring of Honor.
No, that makes all the sense. And honestly,
we just have to question if $12.12 is
anybody
enough.
who donates weapons to the show should be in forever. That's just my 2 cents.
And of course, a big thanks to our executive producers, Dustin Mock and Brian Shaw. Brian contributing some photos of he made the trip and was there in-house in Miami.
Yeah, I saw that, man. That's pretty awesome. I'm sorry he had to endure all the whole stadium covered in those colors, though.
Yeah, it's kind of gross.
Yeah, it's really gross. I don't quite understand what the Dolphins are thinking there, but he was representing. That was awesome. Very few guys get to do it, like Doug had mentioned before, so that was cool to see.
What do you say we read a review, Adam?
Oh, okay. You know what I think? I want Doug's reaction to this review, actually.
Well, it's not very often we get a 2-star review. It's usually, I feel like it's 1 or it's 5. Sometimes it's a 4. Very rarely a 3.
Is it it's a reverse jinx review?
It could be.
Maybe it's a 4-star review, but they gave you 2.
2-star review titled "Adam Ruins It." This trucker from Minnesota has no idea what he's talking about. Awful takes across the board. 2 stars from EEJJZZ.
Are we sure this is for this podcast? Adam, the trucker from Minnesota.
He got the name right.
Okay.
Got the occupation wrong, although he is truck guy now. And then Minnesota got the state name wrong. And
because all M states are the same. Montana, Minnesota, Michigan. We're all the same. Gotcha.
And also, there's not anybody on this show who has no clue what they're talking about. So it's a conundrum.
This is clearly not a review for this show. They you know what happened? They got on this guy's probably a trucker himself. He probably got onto his cell phone while he was rolling down the freeway at 80 miles an hour. And he decides that he's, listening to who knows what this is. Maybe this is a trucker podcast he's listening to, and he's rolling down the reviews on his iPhone.
It's Adam the Trucker for Minnesota podcast.
That's it. He hits it. But instead, right underneath it on the phone is the Seahawkers podcast. And what he does is he hits the wrong thing, right? And now he's talking about Adam the Trucker from Minnesota, and who he just has 0 takes. Bad. Yeah, okay, I get it.
We figured it out.
We get it. Okay, we get this one.
Don't confuse Adam with not knowing what he's talking about when you don't like what he says or the way he's saying it. That's what I have to say.
Clearly, Adam here, he knows what he's talking about. It may not be the right things all the time, but he knows what he's talking about, and he's our Adam. So we love it.
Well, I do appreciate almost all of that, Doug, except for the not always right thing. Being the Miss Cleo of the NFC West, in predicting the downfall of the Rams and the Cardinals and the way the league caught up to them, feel pretty good about that. Also feel good about the idea that Dak Prescott, puts up empty numbers. Talked a lot about that, still loses. I mean, I don't know. I mean, all these terrible takes that I put out there that come completely true almost all the time. I'm the trucker from Minnesota. See, that's why I got confused. I was going to say this mother trucker from Minnesota obviously has terrible takes, but he also has terrible reviews. But appreciate you chiming in, and we read them all. So thanks for the thoughts.
He gave us more than 1 star, though.
Right, that must be for the other co-host from Ohio?
Minnesota, yeah.
Yeah, I figured you'd be from a whole other state.
Missouri, another M state.
There we go.
All right, looking at the Pick'em League standings after week 4, you have Tugahawk and Fernando Tejada up there at the 2 top spots. But the winner for week 4 was Mentals Bodies, and then the name is cut off on my cell phone, so I can't even read the whole name. But 14 picks correct, the only person in the league to hit 14 this week. No tiebreaker, thank goodness. So congrats to the winner there.
Congrats. And I don't know how we're there's a lot of people up at the top here, guys.
Oh, look at you, DCH at 22.
I'm just seeing that myself. I'm usually middle of the pack, I'm like right down there. If we have 100 people, I'm going to be like 49.
I had 51. A terrible week. I may be the team that picked all the games and only got 3 right.
That was it. I'm just looking here, guys. So I don't get to do better, but if I had to do better, I would say that the do better is all those folks who picked like every single game this week and only got 3 right. Like, come on. I don't know if you're just trying to like play the odds and or what's happening, but that doesn't work. That kind of gambling doesn't work in the pick.
I got 7 picks correct this week. 7.
Oh, I got 11. I thought I had 10, got 11. So I'm happy. I'll take it.
Oh, I thought I had 10. No, I had 11. The humble brag from the DCH. What did I end up with?
You had 11 this week too.
I did?
Yeah. Yep. You're at 39. You pulled ahead of me by 1 point.
Even a blind squirrel finds a nut once in a while, man. Like that I did not expect that. Watching the scores, I felt like I did far worse in the pick'em than that. But congratulations to the what was it? Mentals
Bodies,
and I'm sure it had to be Yo Chicken after that, right? Take care of your mentals.
And take care of your mentals and your bodies, and your chicken.
Yeah, I'm sure that was it. It's unfortunate that got cut off because they deserved the whole thing.
I know. If I had my laptop, if we weren't out here in nature, then I would be able to see the whole name.
You're right. It's nature's fault.
It's nature's fault.
Freaking nature.
Let's get an email in, and then we'll get on to some do better and better at life. Levi from South Australia comes in, says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen. Hope you're well. Loving all the content you both put out. Keep up the great work. What a win against the Dolphins today. It's a great feeling to be 4-0, but I'm a little upset, and this is my do better. KO Sports in South Australia, we had a public holiday on the day of the game. The game was at 3:30 a.m., so I woke up early to watch it, only to find out that KO weren't showing it. WTF, man. Unacceptable. A petition needs to be signed, and this needs to change for all Seahawks fans out there. KO Sports, do better." Signed, Levi in the nest down under.
Go Hawks, Levi. And 100% right, 0% wrong on that. What in the hell else was there to show at 3:30 in the morning in Australia?
Nothing.
That's pathetic. Yeah, I feel like who's the Prime Minister of Australia right now? Because as Americans, we don't pay attention to these things.
I know it.
But I don't know what.
But out of protest, I am choosing not to say it.
All right, I like your style and and actually hiding your ignorance. I just come right out and admit it. So I don't know who he is, and I don't know what their processes are in their government, but he should be fired. And if they can't fire him, then they should impeach him. And if you can't impeach him, then they should probably just hang him in the town square because he let this happen on his watch. The Seahawks were not played at 3:30. It's unacceptable.
And this was the last week that our podcast showed up in the Australian podcast apps.
Well, I think I was up at what would have been like 3 a.m. in Australian time.
I remember that's the normal time for us to watch a football game.
That's exactly right. I remember flipping on KO, and you know what it was, fellas? You know what it was?
What?
It was the quarterfinals of the Boomerang Toss Championships. I'm serious. That's what it was. I mean, what are you going to
do? They only play it at night because they have to make room for the kangaroo fights.
Exactly right. It was the Wallabies versus the Kangaroos. And I can't remember.
We'll get all of the offensive Australian stereotypes out there.
It's
just
terrible.
Like we pick on the Canadians for their maple syrup and their flannel.
And don't the Australians, though, they they're pretty cool. I mean, I've never known a lot about Australians. But
I think a quarter Australian.
Wow, you should receive some sort of
I check from the government or something, right?
Yeah.
Well, we want to get all the Australian, stereotypes in this little period of time here. That makes Brandon a quarter criminal. so that's pretty neat. But, it's hilarious because I think Australians are universally beloved around the globe, only second to Canadians, because there is actually one country that does hate Australia. It happens to be New Zealand, and I don't know if it's like a big brother, little brother kind of thing.
Probably.
Or maybe it's because
it's like Montana,
they sound
North Dakota.
just like... No, it's not, because North Dakotans don't sound like Montanans, right? Like, it's terrible. So I guess that must be what it is.
On to do better and better at life.
Okay, that would be all three of us for not knowing
Catfish!
about Australia. Number one. But my do better this week, Brandon, is for Fox. And I noticed this today, and I commented it to you guys as we kind of rewatched some of the stuff in preparation for the pod. I am not a fan of these animated mugshots that they put up of the players during the game. Like, these guys run around with their helmet. Like, let's look at one thing right here. Out of all the major sports in America, the baseball athletes, the basketball athletes, even golfers for that matter, and they're, athletes we'll use loosely there. You can see their face, and they actually get screen time all the time. It helps build their brand. They can sell more sponsorships, or what do they call them? That's sponsorships. Endorsements. They end up with more endorsements.
I think sponsorships and endorsements are actually about the same thing.
Well, potato, that sort of thing. But since they get their face on the screen so often, it's much easier for them to secure those endorsements, right? And in the NFL, these poor catfish, they go out there and they bust their bodies up the most out of all these guys, and they don't get to show their face hardly ever. I dare any of you guys to tell me what Ethan Posick's face looks like, because you couldn't. You couldn't pick him out of a lineup. The only offensive lineman from the Seahawks that you could have picked out in a criminal lineup was back in the day, Britt. No, not Britt. Who was the one that looked?
Creature Man.
Creature Man. The one
so
that
you can't even pull his name.
The defensive lineman that was a convert that went to Tampa and then came back.
Oh no, that's not Creature Man. That's J.R. Sweezy.
J.R. Sweezy was the only face that you could pick out. Couldn't remember his name, but you'd remember that ugly mug. But anyways, instead of the one time they actually get their face on TV when they put up their little picture.
By the way, I bet J.R. Sweezy would appreciate his mug being in cartoon form over being in photograph form.
Maybe true. But for everybody else who's just looking for that little bit of shine, like on national TV, no, they decide to make everybody look like some sort of guy from a superhero movie or a comic book. It's stupid. I hate it. Grow up, Fox, and do better.
My do better for this week is for the Houston Texans franchise. They wait until now, after 4 weeks in the season, to fire Bill O'Brien when everybody knew.
No, they didn't know how this was going to turn out, Brandon.
Oh, yeah, they didn't know. They had no idea. They didn't know the culture of the team over the last few years, when Dwayne Brown couldn't wait to get off that team, when Brandon Brooks couldn't wait to... Wasn't Brandon Brooks on the Texans at one point?
Sure, why not?
Yeah, we'll throw him in there too.
Yeah.
All their good players who didn't want to be on the team. Yeah, Hopkins, he wanted to be somewhere else, or he may have just wanted to get paid. But if they could have done this sooner and avoided the Hopkins trade to Arizona, it would have been so much better for my deal. And it is for that I put the Houston Texans franchise at fault. So for that, Texans franchise, do better.
Any words for the Texans president who screwed over the Seahawks by not firing Bill O'Brien earlier to prevent the DeAndre Hopkins trades, Doug?
Yeah, I'm good on both of these do betters, and I got to say, if there's one back to yours, Adam, if there's one offensive lineman, I actually am sort of on the fence about wanting to see a cartoon character of. I think it might be John Moffat. I mean, come on, that dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we all remember his face.
I want a John Moffat full-on superhero cartoon movie.
Yeah. Or even just, they don't even have to go through the expense of a movie. Just put it out in a comic book form. I'd go for it. Yeah. I would buy it for sure.
The sad part about John Moffat is they actually used his player profile picture as his actual mugshot, because isn't he in like prison for like dealing drugs?
I don't know if he is right now, but
well, then he spent some time there.
He's had some legal issues.
Yeah,
We'll leave it at that.
He played in the Clink, and then he spent some time in the Clink.
I don't know that for sure.
Feels true. Let's go with that.
On to Better at Life.
All right, my Better at Life than Skip Bayless this week is for a man named Montana. And I know he was a 49er, but, growing up, as a kid living in Montana, you rooted for Joe Montana just a little bit because he was, Mr. Montana.
Yeah.
Right?
Did they actually rename one of the towns like on an honorary basis here? Name the town Joe?
Yeah, they did that. Well, Joe Montana, it was either this week or the week before, him and his wife were hanging out, and some lady broke into the house and tried to, kidnap one of their grandchildren.
Yeah. And
they confronted her. They got the kid back and ended up getting the cops involved, and they caught the lady, a couple blocks away. But that's, A, terrifying. 2, of course, Joe Cool stopped the kidnapping. I'm thinking that there's other headlines that Joe has created that have been withheld from the public, because I'm sure Joe's done a bunch of amazing things, but this one right here, saving his grandchildren from, I don't know, child trafficking, better at life than Skip Bayless.
Definitely better at life worthy for Joe Montana. I knew it had to be brought up on the show, and I'm glad you brought it. My better at life this week is for Brandon Shell, our Seahawks right tackle, and Greg Bell of the Tacoma News Tribune. He did a really cool article here this past week focusing on the mentorship that Shell is doing. He apparently grew up being a stutterer himself, and so knowing what he had to go through as a kid, being someone who was picked on, ending up being quiet because of the kids picking on him, and knowing what those kids have to go through. Now he's giving back and talking to those kids and saying, it doesn't have to be something that defines you. And, and in this era where you can't get everybody together in a group, he's doing it on Zoom and speaking to these kids. So I thought it was really cool that, for one, Greg Bell highlighted that fact. And because now that's something I had no idea about Shell, that was part of his past, and that now he's giving back to the kids and helping out in maybe a way that he didn't get help when he was younger. So for Brandon Shell for doing that for the young kids today, and for Greg Bell for highlighting that, better at life than Skip Bayless.
That is really cool. And I did not know that about Brandon Shell either, that he had struggled with the stuttering. Now, that is one of the things that the stutter that I've actually found fascinating over the years, when you get little snippets from people who used to struggle that way. And the weird part to me is that everybody seems to find their own cure for that in their own way. It all seems to be very personal to each person, like how they figure out how to do that. And it probably takes a lot of confidence to be able to take the time and work on yourself and figure it out for yourself. And for Brandon Shell to help instill that into young people, I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, and that was one of the messages from him in this, is that, he said a big part of this for him was empathy. And you wouldn't really think of an emotional response being something that would help you overcome that. He just said that it was being around his close family and close friends and people that he knew, and sticking close to them and the people that really understood him. That's what helped build his self-confidence and allowed him, to just be himself, to what helped him overcome it.
Yeah, it's super cool. I'm a big fan of that. And Brandon Shell's been an awesome addition to the team all the way around.
I am really happy about him.
Yes. You know what else I'm happy about? Having the DCH here to see how the sausage is cooked on the podcast.
Yeah.
If any of you have empathy, though, you should have some for him for having to deal with this. So I appreciate you showing up, buddy.
No, this has been awesome, fellas. Thank you so much. What's really cool about, and maybe many of the listeners out there are already feeling this, because I certainly feel it. One of the coolest things about the Better at Life, and especially when we bring in players into Better at Life, I think one of the things that I take great pride in, I mean, I've been following the Seahawks since they came into the league. I was given a bib, and I've been a lifelong Seahawks fan. One of the things we take great pride in is how they show up in our community, or the Seattle community, and how they're a part of our world. There's sports hate, there's sports love, there's all the things that we do on Sunday to get rallied up. But at the end of the day, these dudes are good dudes, right? And just a story like this about Shell it's the heart of what we really love about our team. It's also the thing that makes me a little funky when it comes to like the players who don't do that kind of stuff, or those who get in trouble. But Anyway, guys, this has been a super pleasure. Thank you so much for having me out. This is an amazing. I know everybody can't see it right now, but what an amazing view we've got right now in the Gulch. There's an incredibly gorgeous one single yellow aspen tree out in the middle of all this green, dense forest that we can see out. This has totally made my day, my week, my month, probably my year. So thanks, Adam, for having me. Really, really, really appreciate all the hospitality. Brandon, thanks for letting me come on. I really appreciate you.
And I think with that,
there's only one thing left to say.
Go Hawks.
Go Hawks!